On Christmas Day, we jumped on an airplane and took off for Dallas, Texas. We drove then down to a 2 hour drive to Killeen, Texas, and that's where we picked up our granddaughter. We then took the granddaughter, and so the three of us drove down to San Antonio, Texas. Our hotel, the Hotel Indigo, was right on the Riverwalk, although not at the heart of everything. We just looked out the window. You could see the river or the canal, and then walked down the stairs from the ground floor, and then you were on the walkway to walk into the heart of all the goodies there. Um, anyway, this picture here was probably an eighth of a mile. It wasn't very far from our hotel, and this is where we start to walk into what you would consider the business loop where the restaurants and shops are. It was beautiful walking through there. Of course, it was fall-like weather. Um, Temperature-wise, it was hot, but the trees and the foliage looked of fall. And before we left there, the weather did turn. It was actually kind of cold leaving, but what a beautiful setting and sight for watching families and couples walking along the water and people jogging. It was an epic experience. We had walked a little bit and was an hour early for dinner reservation, but they took us anyway, and we ate at a fun little Italian place. And it quickly became dark, and you could see all of the Christmas decoration and just the beautiful lights that are there all the time. This picture here was after dinner, and we'd stood in a long line, which seemed like it would take hours. It was only about 45 minutes. It was very similar to waiting in line to go on a ride at Disneyland. In fact, the whole experience was very much like Disneyland. I felt a little bit like I was on the Pirates of the Caribbean, especially the part where you cruise past the restaurant in the beginning there. The evening boat ride was well worth the 45-minute wait, and it was about a 45-minute ride. Got to see a lot of shops, some buildings, some apartments, people's personal decoration. It was an epic tour and well worth the money. I think it was $12 a person and $8 for the grandchild. Just the views did not stop giving. My camera didn't do a good job here, so I used all cell phone. Weirdly, the cell phone doesn't take the most or the best quality picture, but it seems to do very well in the dark, and so that's what I shot all of these with. Traveled along the river walk there in the boats. It's just a strong sense of community, or like a public event or something. It was just a lot of fun, but you felt like you were joining in these people's intimate dining experience at this Japanese or sushi restaurant here. Felt like you could just stand up and ask for a sample. Besides the beautiful views of the Riverwalk itself, you could see the high rises in the city, and this Tower of America, as it's called, which you will see other pictures here momentarily, where the very next morning we actually go up into the top of that tower, and we walked to that tower from this Riverwalk the next day. Here we're getting closer to a mall area. There were these little cul-de-sacs off of the main business loop there, and the Christmas decorations were everywhere. Here you're seeing a big Christmas tree and a big lit connecting hallway between two buildings crossing the channel, and then of course the lights hanging in the tree on the right, and then floodlights coloring just bare trees on the left. Here, going under a bridge in a restaurant under the bridge, they had some really neat LED rainbow lighting. They had that on a lot of bridges, not necessarily under the arches here, but on the sides and the post. That would change colors. And there were permanently mounted lights. That's not just a Christmas thing. Anyway, again, just some more epic views of being on the Riverwalk. Away from the restaurants and people, This is a little further away at either a hotel, or I think this is actually an apartment here or condo complex. But the Christmas decorations everywhere were just amazing. The very next day, and before we went on a little bit of an adventure walk, we tried to catch breakfast and found it very difficult to get breakfast in that area. Restaurants either didn't serve it or only was serving breakfast till about 9 or 10 o'clock, and then it was lunch after that. So we walked out to go to breakfast, but ended up having lunch. This was a place, I forget what it was called, but it was kind of an Irish pub lunch spot. But it's set in the corner where the canal makes a right turn or a bend. And so we were looking up two directions of the canal. This is, from where I was sitting, was the view to my left, and then if I looked to my right, or I should say straight, it was a different view. This is the view right here. Now I'm sitting straight. Just epic to watch the boats go by and then the people. It was just a really nice, relaxing is the big thing. Just felt like I didn't have a care in the world and could have spent all day sitting there watching the people and boats go by. This was a sight that was very common, and that was seeing a granddaughter and wife smiling, and they were thicker than thieves the entire trip. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun to go on an adventure and vacation and get to hang out with a grandchild. After our lunch, again in no hurry, we thought we'd walk some of the loop and just people watch. And as you can see here, the canal is just beautiful. Learned something I didn't know on the tour. The canals are actually very shallow. They're like 3 foot to 5 foot deep. So the occurrence of people falling in the water is not very often, but when it does happen, we were told by tour guides that it's either from drunk people trying to navigate or people texting and not watching where they're walking. Here's another view while walking. Same view from the boats, though. Just looking in windows. Here is a hotel and some type of eating place at the bottom of the hotel. But as you can see, the Christmas decorations and just a lot of fun sights. Again, a great place to people watch and enjoy the decorations. Not on a tour, but this time we grabbed one of the water taxis, which kind of the same thing anyway. Just a little more expensive when you want to go a little faster and get somewhere, but it was hard to carry a grandchild that didn't want to walk anymore. Anyway, this is what daytime looks like. It's beautiful there, but really, really enjoyed the nighttime cruise. As mentioned a few slides ago, that Tower of Americas that you can see from the Riverwalk. Here we are standing just below the tower, getting ready to go up inside of it. And here we are at the top, looking over Texas, and I realized in that area, San Antonio, as far as you can see in any direction, there is no mountains. Here, leaving the area the next day, we grabbed some breakfast at an infamous spot that we heard about. It's not a really nice place, but notorious for their giant cinnamon roll and large portions of food. I had an ordering accident. I wanted something called the deputy, and so when I ordered, I asked for the sheriff deputy. Well, apparently there was a sheriff order and a deputy order, and the sheriff order was the same thing, just about 40% bigger. I, of course, did not eat everything you see there. In fact, that cinnamon roll you see, between the three of us, that's all we could eat, what you see there. And I probably ate less than half of my steak, but the food was good. While we were heading back from San Antonio back up to Killeen to go back where the granddaughter's home is and basically take her back, we made a very brief stop in Austin. Walking just in the heart of downtown, there was a fun music store that was not specifically an instrument store, but they had a few instruments. But a lot of music memorabilia and such items. Anyway, it was a really fun store to go in and get a couple of souvenirs and look around. Walking along the streets of downtown Austin was a couple of fun little theaters where people would perform. We didn't have the time or take the time to see any shows or performances or even really eat there. We really just walked up and down the main street there and had a Starbucks and walked up to the Capitol building. I hope someday to get to go back to Austin and spend a little bit of time there. I think it would be epic to eat at a good, fun restaurant in the area and then go see a show somewhere. Here we are with the granddaughter, Harmony, and there's Francis doing a selfie here in front of the Capitol. And then we walked up to the Capitol and admired it and took a few pictures. It's pretty big and fun. I did get a chance to play the guitar in Austin. You can see me here doing a little practicing on the street. Back in Killeen, we went to dinner with the granddaughter one last time and her mother, and ate at the infamous Rudy's there in Texas, a barbecue chain. This one was also a gas station, and while the food was very good, it wasn't my favorite kind of barbecue sauce. This had more of the vinegary style. I like it sweet and bold, but in any case, it did not disappoint. It was very good, and the decoration and ambiance for what it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. We did stay that one night in Killeen, and the next day drove up to actually past Dallas to McKinney, a suburb of Dallas, out past Plano, Texas. While I don't have many pictures here to share, the pictures I did take, I took with the big camera, and I did not take the time to dump any pictures from the big camera to the iPad here to make this video. Anyway, when we parked to walk in Old Town McKinney, I did happen to capture with my phone this cool-looking Ghostbusters-looking ambulance. But we spent a couple of days with our friends. Well, we spent the night on New Year's Eve, actually. Went to a nice place for dinner, and then rang in the new year at their house. It was nice and quiet, but fun. They were really nice people. It was nice to catch up with them. The next day, they had a church function they were going to, and we thought, well, we're going to take off. And our flight did not leave Dallas until almost 9 o'clock, New Year's Day evening. And we thought we'd just take off and go into downtown Dallas and do some sightseeing. We discovered real quick everything was closed in Dallas. All the things you could go see, museums or attractions or anything, they were closed for New Year's Day. Anyway, we looked for a food place and wandered upon this park because we were wandering the streets in between the big buildings you see in the background there, and the streets were dead. There was one or two other couples looked as lost as we did, and it was looking like it was going to be a big disappointment. Anyway, we stumbled upon this park, and there was a few people in the park and this restaurant in the park. The restaurant was really nice. It was both indoor and outdoor. It was all glass, so no matter where you sat, if it was freezing cold, you could see outside. It was a cold day, but these heaters here actually were nice to sit by. So we sat out on the patio and enjoyed, again, the people watching. Was a little bit surprised at how many people were walking around and things going on. This was our view from our table looking at the city skyline there, and it seemed like people were starting to build up and more people were coming, like something was going to happen. And then all of a sudden it did. People poured in, a couple of trucks came in, some music or like DJ style speakers set up, and then what it was the Cotton Bowl. The two teams that were going to be playing the Cotton Bowl came in that park in downtown and did a very big show with both teams, cheerleaders and bands. It was an epic outdoor party. So we sat there and ate some lunch and enjoyed a couple of drinks, and really, really had a nice afternoon to kill before we went to fly out. Walking back to the car, back through the dead city part where it looked like no one was. You'd never know in the heart of the city, right in the park, that's where everyone was. Here was a big Baptist church that was actually very pretty. It didn't look like a church that you would think of as a church. It looked like a big arts, performing arts or science center or something, but it was pretty nice. Now we're driving out of Dallas, but took a little side trip to go over this fun-looking bridge. It was fun to drive under and see it. And then here we had to turn around and come back the other way and go past it again, and then head on into the airport where we were, probably 4 hours early. But it turned out that we were. The gate changed 2 or 3 times. We had to do some running to a different terminal and gate, but everything worked out well. Flight went well, and anyway, had a really nice time. We got back into LAX about 10 o'clock in the evening, LA time, but it took a while to get our luggage and get to the bus and get to our parked car. We didn't actually leave there till probably about 11:45, and then the near hour and a half ride home, and quickly opened up our suitcases and actually put a few clothes away. We didn't end up getting into bed till probably about 2:30, but then luckily had the next day off, so we had one day of rest and do a little chore stuff before going to work. Anyway, that was our week trip to Texas. Week, W-E-E-K, not W-E-A-K.